Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And I'm back today with our engineer, Mike Herzog. How's it going today, Mike?
Always happy to be here, David. It's a beautiful day out there, and I'm here.
I'm considering mowing some grass this afternoon.
It's mine's getting a little shaggy out there too, which is joys of being a homeowner.
Right, right. Anyways, I thought it's like, yeah, it's about that time. We're going to start out. We're going to talk a little about the UK. So this is, here's something kind of funny. Whenever I see the price of Bitcoin go down, the first thing I always ask is, there's a running joke: did China outlaw Bitcoin again? Because most times you're seeing crypto plummet. China's announced they're banning Bitcoin, and then they do it again like a year or two later, then a year or two later. So anyways, this one's kind of interesting. This one comes from the UK, though. Keir Starmer, Sir Keir Starmer, who's the Prime Minister, announces ban on new petrol and diesel cars and hybrids. And now, they've previously done this, then rolled it back. Now they're bringing it back again. And Keir Starmer says he wants British manufacturers to be at the forefront of the electric vehicle revolution, as it confirmed a raft of new reforms in the wake of U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs. As part of his announcement, Sir Keir will reinstate the 2030 ban on the sale of new petrol and diesel cars. Now, that's what, five years from now.
Quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty quick. Regulations around manufacturing targets on electric cars and vans will also be altered to help further transition, and hybrids will be on the market, both regular hybrids and plug-in hybrids, for an additional 5 years. Let's see. The Prime Minister said that a new era of global instability would push the government to go further and faster to support electric vehicle businesses. Under new measures, rules around fines for manufacturers who do not sell enough electric cars will be relaxed, and supercar firms will be exempt. So people like Aston Martin will still be able to sell their gas-powered
limited edition luxury.
Yeah, okay. Because they don't sell very many.
Yeah.
There's going to be a limit to how many they can sell. McLaren, other companies. Companies are grappling with the new rules from the White House, which means the 25% tax U.S. as they look to address the new trading terms. Let's see. Officials are also.
I somehow got in. I was following sports or something like that. In my Twitter feed, I got a whole bunch of people from the UK that just will randomly pop up and say, so I see random stuff about UK politics, and I have for the past couple of years. And it's fun to watch at arm's length. Because the impression I get is Keir Starmer is one of those people that nobody likes, but somehow
he's Prime Minister.
He was, it's him or this person. Everybody, this side hates this person, this side hates this person. He just kind of came in the middle, and he's just in this spot of, I'm here, and now the people who voted for him aren't happy, and the people who didn't vote for him aren't happy, and it's just, they are in a mess, like us, in a lot of respects, where nobody's happy with anything, and people are infighting in the country, and it's just a mess over there right now. But it's fun to see these British people or people from the UK throw random comments about MPs, members of parliament. This is kind of fun. Like, I have no idea who that person is, but yeah, that was very funny what they just did. So I've been following this at arm's length for a while, so it's fun to see these things pop up of, I wonder what they're going to say about this, and the feed
it's
my way.
It's fun to see these other countries have their own problems, right?
Yeah.
Politics gets a little weird sometimes. It's funny. You think about it, in the last 100 years, who would you consider to have been the greatest British politician? I mean,
Churchill, right?
It's easy first pick, but as soon as the war in Europe ended, they got his ass out of there fast. I mean, it was just like that. It's like, what the hell? It's like they really, it's like, oh well, you were good for us in war, but no more. And it was really interesting. His whole relationship over the year in politics. So either he's really popular or he's not. and it's it just interesting to see. And it's like the UK, you've seen, you know, several prime ministers over the last few years, and
Yeah,
but
it's
you
been
know,
rough over there the past couple of
yeah,
years.
do we want Brexit? Do we not want Brexit?
Mhm.
Anyways, officials have said the support for the car industry will continue to be kept under review as the full impact of the tariffs last week becomes clear. I fully expect most of these countries to to come in and say we want to be more of a free trade with the United States. We'll drop all of our tariffs. So one of the things that's unfair about the tariffs, not the U.S. tariffs. See, we don't have a value-added tax, and in a lot of companies, I'm sorry, in a lot of countries, besides having a tariff, they also may apply a 20% VAT. So when a product arrives, because they bought it from elsewhere, a 20% tax is applied to it then. And let's say then it's bought by a wholesaler, for God's sakes. When he sells it again, it's another 20%. And so you can keep having this VAT. So you want to keep as many links out of the chain of distribution out as possible. And and then there's a final sales tax to the buyer, right?
The buyer at the very end.
Yeah. And I remember talking to folks like in Denmark, their VAT's like 50% on imports.
Huge. On automobiles especially, they can be huge over there.
Yeah, the taxes are almost 100% on an imported automobile into Denmark. Okay, but it may not technically be a tariff.
Yeah.
And this is where some of the things they've been looking at is how do we make this an even playing field? I'm not familiar with NIDAC motor. Every electric motor got expensive. Yes, I assume they're overseas. I'm assuming there's going to be a pretty big jump in those prices of those items. There are people who make electric motors in the United States. I remember looking at somebody who was for sale, but they were more in the like sports racing space of electric motors. They wanted to add and make your car like a mild hybrid, where you'd add the electric motor to help with 0 to 60 time. And it wasn't really there to improve your gas mileage. Every motor and every air conditioner. Okay. Yeah. I'm sure we're going to see some price changes, but I think we're going to see fluctuations. I really just can't imagine that a lot of countries aren't going to try to haggle some of this out. The United States is the world's largest consumer country. And I think that's, a tough situation. And one of the complaints is like China is the biggest auto consumer or automobile consumer. And they've basically tariffed the United States out of being able to compete there, so it only makes sense for us to do the same to them, right? But we'll just see where things play out. Hell, even Vietnam, which is a communist country, has already reached out and wants to, change things.
Like when they first announced a week or two ago, I saw an announcement that Japan, China, and I think Korea, maybe Vietnam was in there too, said we're going to unite and we're going to push back on this. That, holy smokes, if Japan and China are uniting on something, we are in deep doo-doo. And now this week already, it's one of those like, no, like Japan, Vietnam, somebody else over there too. I don't remember. But let's talk. Like let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's go. And I hope to God, like the intent of all of this was just to bring people to the table, strong arm, and like now let's have a serious discussion on all of this and what it means. But I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know how to predict things anymore.
Yeah, I heard an interview with Howard Lutnick, who's the Commerce Secretary, on how a lot of things came to be, with how a lot of things that are going on in the government came to be. And he was explaining how their intent is to use tariffs to reduce the deficit by $1 trillion a year is the intent. And that they intend to cut $1 trillion a year out of waste and all that, so that we can actually have a balanced budget again. And I think that's pretty fair. And then part of what they want to do is that unique that gold card for citizenship.
Mhm.
They want to pay off several $1 trillion of the deficit, or of the um, whatever the money the government owes. I always get the deficit and the total amount that the country owes. Anyways, I get those names confused. But anyways, to try to pay that down some.
Mhm.
And so there's some interesting ideas there. One of the things is the tariffs are going to lower interest rates and significantly affect what the United States is paying out for debt. And so there's some, interesting give and take on this.
No,
So a lot of
it's interesting. It's like if it's a long-term play, like it's a valid strategy shift. It's
Mhm.
like we want to reinforce domestic manufacturing. We want to bring these jobs back here. We want to do that. And it's when, like, it's different than what we've done, but it's a strategy. It is a valid strategy. You can objectively take a step back and say, yeah, this is a path to go down. We can change what we're doing. It's the interim, and all the chaos it's created. And can you get past whatever the cost is to get to those end goals? So we're going to see it play out in real time here, and
yeah.
probably as we speak right now. Things are developing and changing, and what we said 2 minutes ago is, maybe not valid anymore. Things are moving real fast.
So, and the first day they opened it up, they sold 1,000, which was $5 billion. Okay. Um, Howard Lutnick said that they did something where they identified that worldwide there's about 39 million eligible people who could afford to do this. I dispute that to a certain degree. I don't. I would think to be able to afford this, you would need to have a family net worth of at least $30 million to pay the 5 million. Because most people's net worth isn't cash. It's not in the stock market. It's usually it's
Property.
tied in the value of their business.
Mhm.
And so most people aren't liquid like that. But that being said, their goal is to sell 1 million of these. And if 1 million people who are, worth tens of millions of dollars become U.S. citizens, then they're going to bring businesses and money to be spent here in the United States. So they're going to create more.
Yeah.
They're going to create more jobs here in the United States. I think a million is an awfully ambitious number. Like you're saying, you can't see 100,000, but if you're that wealthy, you want to come. Where do you want to live? You're either going to want to move to Europe or you're going to want to move to the United States. And a lot of countries there's a lot of countries where you can buy a gold card type citizenship for somewhere around anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million. So there's a lot of countries that sell these. The United States just up until now did not. So
I think the back end too, people don't necessarily have to live here. It's just, sure, I'll get citizenship, in the US and do what I want and everything, and free travel and everything that entails associated with it. Yeah,
there's a simpler process than doing the $5 million gold card. You can do an EB-5 where if you're foreign, you invest $1 million into a business that creates 10 jobs. You can get citizenship that way too. So there is a cheaper way to do it, but it's more complicated. So I really, to me, I think most of these people would try more to do the EB-5 visa unless they're going to phase that out.
Yeah.
There's another one called an E2 visa, not EB-2, but just E2, but it only gives you a green card, whereas these other processes actually make you a citizen.
True citizenship.
Oh, they certainly have options, but they want to, and they're capable of getting a visa or passport and visa and come to the United States as tourists, but they'd probably like citizenship. So it's different.
Very, very wealthy people who this is targeting, like an analogy is country clubs. They belong to multiple country clubs. Some of them they might not ever go to, but they say, I have this much disposable. I'll just join it because I want my name on the roster. I want my name on the rolls, and maybe there's one event I want to go to in the year. But I think it's a similar concept. Yeah,
it is.
Sure, $1 million, 5 minutes, whatever. Like, I'll do it and get it out of the way. And just in case I need this at some point, it's done and I've got it figured out.
Yep. There's a lot to it. I'm just really surprised that they use this as the reasoning to put a mandate for EVs, or maybe it's just that somebody, because I'm getting this from a UK news source, and it's interesting that what is it? This is coming from, I don't know. Do they have liberal Democrats in the UK? The
I forget the name
article,
of the party.
yeah,
Labor, maybe, I don't
yeah.
know.
The Liberal Democrats have said the moves on their own won't be enough to protect the vehicle sector, from the impact of Trump's damaging taxes. Well, that's because so many Americans like to buy British cars.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got Jaguar, Land Rover, Mini. It'd be interesting to see how all that plays out. But I'm sure they'll make some kind of deal, and who knows. Let's see. All right, so let's talk about something weird. How about first electric hydrofoil? This is a ferry. It's a 100% electric hydrofoil ferry. Not something I guess I would have ever really thought about. It flies, it floats, it's electric. It apparently goes about 27 miles per hour. It's faster than any other ferry. This is over in Sweden. And I'll leave it to the Swedes to come up with something interesting.
I don't know why it's hydrofoil. If it's more efficient, less resistant, I don't.
It's sleek, silent, water skimming. It's called the Nova, and it would first entered Stockholm's public transport system last fall. It's a combination of electric propulsion and hydrofoil technology to lift it above the water, reduces drag, increases efficiency, and makes it the fastest electric passenger vessel in the world, cruising at 25 knots. Oh, that's about 29 miles per hour.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It had a pause for the winter, and it goes back in the water on April 15th. They released performance data. It's not just fast, it's popular, green, and pulling people out of their cars. Let's see, here's another photo of it going across the water in not so quite as placid water.
Oh, yeah, there you go. That's cool. It's unique.
Yeah.
The latest, I saw an article a while back where somebody was proposing for tankers and big ships, and they said, well, what if we put up, like a large device that could capture the wind and propel it? And I thought, is this satire? Like, you mean a sail that we've been using for 10,000 years or whatever? So, oh no, but it's different because it'll generate electricity. You propose putting a sail on a boat. Like, that's, I don't know, maybe it's innovative today, but I think we figured that one out a while ago. That it's good.
Have you seen? I think Cargill has one of those, as a boat that has the sail, but what's unique is these sails are these massive sails on cargo ships, and everything. It's just like press a button. So it's not like you have to have all the people running up the rigging and climb. Yeah.
Well, they completely like fold down and then pop up. Like those. They're really cool.
Yeah, they can take them in. And the thing is, they actually, when the wind's with them, they actually sail faster than they do under, burning bunker fuel or whatever. Because there's something about the fuel efficiency of those big ships is optimized around 8 knots or something like that. And so that's where they typically run, and they actually run a little faster off the wind power.
When they're on sail, that's cool.
Yeah, so Bill and I have talked about sailing ships a few times, because there's even been some weird ones where there's like an autonomous sailing ship that uses wind power and batteries to create green hydrogen, in theory for free, that it can then take and dump it off. But it actually, how we talked about how hydrogen is 16 times more expensive than electricity. When you do this process, when you factor in the cost of the boat, it's only like 8 times more expensive.
So at the end, when everything like closed system, everything's said and done, is cheaper.
It's cheaper than regular hydrogen.
Yeah.
It cuts it in half, but you need to cut it by 96% to get it to be competitive with just EVs. Yeah. So, it's one of the things Bill and I talked yesterday about France and Germany. I've said that for larger transportation and trucks, everybody just needs to stop doing hydrogen and just go full EV.
Everybody just invest.
Yeah. The numbers are just a fantasy world, and it's just not going to fly. It's like, we got nothing against hydrogen. It's just the economics just terrible.
And it's so hard to compete against electricity where there's already a distribution network built out. Like electricity is everywhere. You need to bolster, strengthen a couple pieces of it, but it's everywhere. We built that grid already, and then to repopulate a hydrogen grid on top of that, plus there's an existing natural gas grid, plus oil pipelines, water pipeline, all of that to try to shoehorn in more infrastructure on top of that. I don't see it. And that's why electricity is so much cheaper today. It exists. We invested in all those networks already.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I thought the hydrofoil boat was something we certainly don't see every day, right? Let's see. All right. So Toyota makes a prediction for the future of EV sales. Now, Toyota has said before they don't think that ever more than 30% of the market's ever going to be EVs, which is kind of fascinating considering there's some markets that are already way past. But
when Toyota's a notable non-player in the EV world right now. I mean, they're just not there.
So let me see. So by the year 2030, global EV sales are expected to grow to more than 31 million new EVs sold a year, which would account for 30%. So apparently there's close to 100 million, but they're expecting it to be 100 million cars sold by 2030. Toyota doesn't want to be left out of that future EV pie. That's why Toyota and Lexus are now planning to have 15 new EVs introduced by the end of 2027. Now that's a big jump because now
I hadn't heard that. That's big news.
Yeah,
I think.
Let's see. Let's see. C-HR Plus EV. That sounds more like a Honda, but let me see. They have an upcoming electric Toyota Hilux for global markets, which that's a car they don't sell in the United States, but it's one of the 5 best-selling cars in the world, but they don't sell in the United States. Let's see. A new electric SUV was jointly developed with Subaru, a 3-row electric SUV designed for the U.S. market, and at least one new Lexus EV, possibly also a 3-row SUV. That gets us to 5 of the 15 to expect. So there's a lot left to expect from Toyota. They've previously teased everything from electric sports cars, sedans, SUVs, and even an electric Tacoma has shown up on the company's previous EV production plan previews. It's likely that some popular existing models like the RAV4, the Camry, and the Corolla get EV versions going forward, but keep their names. See that, and that makes sense to me. Those are all super successful. I mean,
I agree with you. Household names. Why not have an EV model? Put the lowercase e on the back end of it.
The RAV4 hybrid is one of the very best selling cars, at least in the United States. I don't know about worldwide, but it's so popular. The Camry hybrid now. I mean, some of these Toyota hybrids get great gas mileage. Would you switch them over to EV?
So
I mean,
big deal. Good job, Toyota and Lexus. But it's if everybody delivers on what they're saying, God, 2027, 2028, all that. I mean, it's going to be EVs out the wazoo everywhere. I mean, the models available and what they have, it's ramping up.
Let me see. The Hilux EV will be assembled in Thailand and possibly also in Argentina. The 3-row Highlander EV will be assembled in Indiana and Kentucky.
There you go. All right.
Yeah. Let's see. The CHR Plus EV will begin production in Japan.
I don't even know what that is. What is that? A sedan? Is it an SUV?
I
Or
don't know.
is it
It
going to be a
says
new
C-HR. Let me just see if I can
crossover?
find that.
Not quite a
C
car, not
dash.
quite an SUV.
It's a subcompact SUV. You know, it's let me see here. Oops. I hit the wrong button. Yeah, these are all.
Okay.
It's not a bad looking little SUV. I'm just not familiar with it. Apparently, it's been around for a while because up here, it's showing me used ones, and they go back all the way to 2018. So apparently, they've been a while for a while. It's just
older
I
model
just
RAV4 before every cars just keep getting bigger and bigger. This looks like a size of a RAV4 from about 10 years ago.
back in the 90s, the Honda CRV was like this little car, and now it's a mid-sized SUV. Or it was a hatchback back then. It was like a, real small hatch.
It's a progression. I mean, they just keep getting bigger and bigger, and once it gets too big, they introduce a new model, and then just keep rolling through.
Every 4 years, when they introduce a new model, it's now 2 inches wider, 4 inches longer, 2 inches taller, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But the thing is, they do that because I love my car, and it's like, oh, it's bigger now. I'll just trade this in. I could use that slightly. A little bigger would be okay. Yeah. It's kind of funny how that plays out. But let's see. The jointly developed SUV with Subaru should show up by spring of next year. The next gen Lexus EV will go into production in August of 27. It's quite, we're still talking a little over 2 years. That's pretty ambitious. Their production target is 1 million EVs sold per year by the end of 2027. That's a huge jump from where they're at now. That'd be 700% more than last year.
I mean, I've learned so much talking to you every week about this and who's coming out, and Toyota's just been so absent. So this turnaround, we're doubling, not doubling, we're going 700 times what we were going before.
Yeah. So they made 140,000 EVs across the planet in 2024. And they're wanting to go to 1 million. Of course, that's still a far cry behind the 4 million that Tesla and BYD each do.
And BYD, and I see so many F-150 Lightnings out there now. And maybe it's just I'm looking for them, but Ford's ramping up. I mean, everybody is just going gung-ho right now. So yeah, they're 2 years behind everybody already. But I think though that's pretty high brand loyalty with Toyota and Lexus. I don't think they're going to be hurting in a couple of years. But
it's one of those things. The pricing is baked in. And you go buy a used Toyota, but they hold resale value better than anything.
Yep.
And for good reason. Let's see. So Tesla announces that right now, if you're a Cybertruck owner, they won't take a Cybertruck as a trade-in. Tesla won't take a Cybertruck back as a trade-in. Apparently, they're sitting on a news article I was reading said they had 200 million in inventory. That's about 2,500 vehicles, that they have sitting. But I don't know how they sold like 40,000 of them last year. 2,500. That's like 3.5 weeks worth. I don't know that really is a huge amount of inventory to have sitting around.
Yeah, I don't. I don't know. I don't know enough about it. It's one of those. It's the same thing we always talk with Tesla. Take it with a grain of salt. I mean, is it people bashing the Cybertruck? Just they're they're not taking it
as a trade-in. I mean,
trade-in at this point, but I don't know if that's.
I know you weren't allowed to even sell your Cybertruck for a while because people were buying them and then trying to sell them for like a premium of like $50,000 to $100,000 extra, and for early adopters, and they made it. There was some penalty for doing that.
I can see that. I mean, that's sure great. Like, I want people to get in line and buy their truck and pay the price we pay. And
I know if you go buy a new Ferrari, you're not allowed to sell it in the first year.
Really?
So yeah. So for instance, you can't just go buy a new Ferrari. You have to have owned a used one first. Okay. So until they'll sell you one, it's a weird process, but they want to sell new Ferraris to people that have already owned Ferraris. Okay. And so because of that, it's not that that's really artificially keeping the price up, but they really make it difficult. And, that's why it's one of the things, it's a bigger status to have a Ferrari than a Lamborghini. And a lot of it's because of how difficult they make to own this. The same thing. There's a couple of really high-end Porsches. One of the Porsche models, in order to buy it, you have to have owned 10 previous Porsches.
What? Really?
Yeah. So people will actually go buy 10 used Porsches to qualify so they can buy. I don't know which model it is, but it's like $1 million. It's probably one that's $1 million bucks.
It's one of those that's the nicest car you'll ever see in your life, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just saying that there's some weird things out there, but Ferrari does it. So for them to put some of those rules in initially, I'm just not so sure. It's saying this article I said says Tesla Cybertrucks are going to hate Tesla's latest move, and I'm just like, that's not really that unusual.
Yeah, so I don't know what to make of it. It's just with all Tesla news. Is this actually a non-story that you're putting out there?
Are we just
clicks, or is this something that's going to actually have an impact? I don't know.
Yeah, you do kind of wonder sometimes. Anyways, we'll get to our main story for the day, and then this is on car recall statistics. Now, this is from January of last year to March of this year. Ford comes in number one, and the largest number of recalls, 94, affected more than 5.6 million vehicles. Now, to be fair, it affected, they had 94 recalls, and that affected approximately 7% of all. It was like 7% of all recalls in the world. Let's just say in the United States. I'm not sure where if this was global or US. I'm going to assume it's US. Chrysler had 78, and that was 6% of global recalls. But here's the weird one. A company called Forest River Inc. had 67, and that was 5% of total recalls. I don't even know who Forest River Inc. is. I'm going to have to look that up real quick.
Yeah.
Forest River Inc. They make RVs. RVs and buses.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they're probably pretty good company. Elkhart, Indiana. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, you got a lot of vehicle manufacturing in Indiana that's not necessarily like the big three. It's other companies. General Motors was fourth with 41. BMW was fifth with 39. But in terms of vehicles impacted, Tesla had 5.8 million impacted, which was more than Ford. And now, when Tesla does a recall, it's usually a software update, and they do it all the way across the board. So every car is updated. So for them to have had 5.8 million cars, I think Tesla sells, well, what do they sell in the United States? About 500,000 cars a year. So that's prospectively, when they say there's a recall, that was probably every single Tesla in the United States.
Yeah.
So everyone got a software update.
We
And
tweak this line of code, bring it back in for a firmware update. Yeah.
well, but with Tesla, they don't even do that usually. Usually it just does it over the internet,
Yeah.
over
I know
Wi-Fi.
my car does that every once in a while. It's also, hey, if it's a safety related update, they do it through a recall. And it's just one of those, make sure you bring it in. We want to make sure it's installed correctly, everything like that. But if it's just hey, why doesn't my radio stay on the same station? Every time I turn the car on, like, well, it's updated automatically, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, some of that is a little, I don't know. And Tesla's argued that they get an unfair rap because all those things are apparently called recalls, even if, it's a fix that nobody ever went and touched your car. Let's see. Well, anyways, it's interesting kind of to see where recalls fit. Oh, you know what? I have these stats for per year recalls. And so last year, there was 33 million car recalls. The year before, there was 39. The year before that was 31. But in 2020, when we had COVID, there was 56 million recalls. The cars must have caught COVID or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
People knew, like, oh, you're not driving anywhere. You might as well bring it in and get fixed.
In 2019, there was 52 million recalls. But when we go all the way back to 2015, there was 85 million recalls, followed by 75 the year after. So the numbers of recalls are going down.
Going down? That's great.
Yeah. Although, if we go all the way back to 2012 or 2011, it was only 14 million recalls. So apparently these numbers really change a lot. But I think that when you get to those numbers like 50 million in 19 and 20, I suspect a lot of those had to do with like the Model 3. That maybe so in 18, the Model 3 came out, and there were so many Model 3s and there were so many issues with, software upgrades they kept doing that I kind of wonder if that wasn't
when
a big issue.
When did Toyota have all those problems with the floor mat and uncontrolled acceleration?
Ooh, I'm not sure.
I don't remember. I think it was before 2015, 2016 timeframe.
Probably.
Because like that, I'm just trying to if every single Toyota got recalled, that's going to inflate numbers for a couple of years, and then any ripple effects of every other manufacturer going like, are our floor mats secured? Or what do we need to do? We don't want this to happen. So I'm wondering some of those years, if I'm just in events in my head that would have driven like, holy cow, all of these cars are getting recalled. Like, we need to bring things in. So I don't remember when that was though.
Yeah. So the company with the lowest rate was called Orange EV. They had a 0%, issue. They make pure electric heavy duty terminal trucks. So they make electric yard trucks, to haul trailers around the yard.
Yeah.
They just move trailers and containers. Let's see, Lucid was actually pretty low, only like 20%. But how many Lucids are there out there? I mean, it's just, there's like 10,000 total Lucids out there on the road. I mean, it's not like there's a lot of vehicles. But anyways, I just thought, that was kind of interesting thing to cover. And we encountered some new EV manufacturers. We didn't know they were out there making them, and we didn't know about Orange EV. That's for sure.
Because we get so, at least me personally, I focus on consumer cars. Hey, I'm out here driving what I see on the road. But yeah, like that Orange EV, like, awesome. What a market to be in. I think those are a great deal. You're just driving around the yard. You park it in the same spot every night. Yeah, perfect. What a great application. Made in Kansas City.
Yep. I'm looking here, something interesting. Tesla's up 5% in the stock market today.
Today?
It's like, Yeah, and it's one of those things. It's like, okay, why is Tesla up today? Did something actually happen, or is it just you know regular trading across the board? It's funny. We've had some really bad days in the stock market, but it seems like stuff all of a sudden is rebounding. Just
Mhm.
just makes you wonder. I think all the tariff news is just going to keep shaking things up and shaking things down. Anyways, well, Mike, that's all I wanted to cover for today, folks. Appreciate y'all chiming in today, and Mike and I'll be back next week. I should be back with Bill Moore tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have something good for y'all tomorrow. Anyways, otherwise, have a great day, folks.